I want to start this off by saying, trigger warning, this could really ruffle some feathers.
And I hope so.
I don't really intend to do that. I think what I'm trying to get at our last episode, we talked about why we collect physical games.
Yes.
And it has to do with the authenticity of the experience. But I want to talk today about choice paralysis. I saw this Reddit post, and I've thought about this before in respects to Netflix.
Yeah, 100%, yeah.
Because I've done it.
Everybody's done it.
For the longest time, I fought off the streaming scene. But, you know, my girlfriend and I, she's got a couple things. So we'll scroll through them, and it's just like... And she's always like, pick something.
When you have so many options, it's hard to pick because what if something better comes along? When you're scrolling through a list of things, you're hoping for something better.
Yeah, and so this Reddit post I seen, this person said, I played my N64 a lot more before I got an EverDrive. And it was fascinating, the responses in this post of people saying, choice paralysis is a real thing. They were saying, yeah, never do that. Like, there were people like, I've been there, don't do that. You're not going to play as many games because you're never going to commit. And this guy said, I dip into games for 5 or 10 minutes. I hit reset.
Because you're like, oh, but there might be a better game.
And I think that is another reason why I'm so into the physical scene and collecting. You know, that last episode, you mentioned putting in Life Force into the NES.
Yes.
And I just look around. And the same game has been in the PS2 since our 24-hour live stream because we are working through Red Star again.
Yes, again.
We're working through a season in NBA Showtime. It's still in the N64.
It's in there because that's what we're working on.
I don't remember what's in the NES. I think it's Shadow of the Ninja because I'm working through that, trying to work on a no-death run. Streets of Rage 3 is in the Genesis because we're working on that game. And they're going to stay there until we get there.
Yeah.
The other N64 cartridge sitting out is NBA Hang Time because we 100%ed that.
We 100% did.
Before going to NBA Showtime.
Yes.
And there's none of this doom scrolling, this choice paralysis that I think a lot of people are getting into. And I think what it turns folks who solely go the emulation route, again, if you haven't seen the prior episode, you may want to watch that.
Yeah.
Reason
kind of a sequel.
Is I don't want this to be, we do emulate.
Yes, we do. Yeah.
We do stream. What I'm trying to get to is, I think like the doom of emulation is the fact that you have too many choices in a lot of cases.
100%. So I love physical media, I love physical games, and I love all this stuff. But then also we do emulate, and we've talked about that before. Mm-hmm. Like we just recently got, and it's really cool, a fully modded PS2 with the complete PS2 library. That is so sick. But have we actually played it? No. We were playing Red Star physically.
Yeah.
And we got this before we started playing through Red Star again. And guess what? We're playing through Red Star still. Like, it's really fun to be like, oh, wow, I have tens of thousands of video games in this box. Cool. Are you playing them? Are you beating them? Are you no-death running them? Are you actually enjoying them for what they are, for the art piece that it is? Or are you just going, oh, I get the idea of that. Oh, that's it. Yeah, that game's a pretty cool platformer. Let me move on to the next game. Oh, this game's a cool running gun. I beat the first level. Let me move on. I feel like you're not enjoying the game because you have so many options.
Well, it's weird to me on the emulation front. If I ever am emulating, and I don't know if you know the answer to this, but you got to think about it in your own respect as well. But when I do pick a game through emulation, I'm usually picking arcade style games. I'm picking shooters,
yes,
fighters, or something like NBA Jam that it's just, dude, we're head to head. We're not saving anything. We're just
playing a quick game and that's it.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a great use of emulation.
Yeah. And like when we take our GameCube that
it's
may not be. I can't remember. Yeah, now that you've mentioned it, but nonetheless, that is an on the go. We're staying at friends' houses and we play NFL Blitz or the wrestling games or Mario Kart.
That's why we have it modded, maybe. And we have access to all these games, but we're just playing NFL Blitz, Mario Kart, and wrestling games. Like, we scroll past all the other games. We're like, we don't. So it's weird. We have access to them, but we don't play them.
And no, but it's when I commit to a game, it's like I'm gonna put something in the GameCube, and that's what I'm working on.
Yeah, dude.
That's what I'm doing.
I mentioned this in the last episode, but I think it applies to this one because we're talking about emulation. So in my living room, I have, my PS4, my Xbox One, and then I have all the mini consoles, and the mini consoles are modded. So I have like the NES Mini, all the NES games, Super Nintendo Mini, all the Super Nintendo games. And then I also have a modded Wii. So I have access to literally tens of thousands of video games.
Game Boy game, yeah.
Everything in my TV. But when I'm sitting on my couch and all this stuff's hooked up, I have it all on switch boxes, don't have to worry about powering or all this stuff. Every time I fire something up on my modern TV, it's going to be my PS4, it's going to be my Xbox One, or it's going to be my Switch. If I want to play the NES, I could play it right here, right now in front of my flat screen, but I don't. I go to my...
Dude, because you're a man who likes to be on his knees.
Yeah,
dude.
because I have a real NES hooked up to a CRT TV with a stack of games.
In your office, yeah.
I don't have many, but if I'm going to play the NES, I'm like, okay, let me decide what game I'm going to play. Oh, I'm going to play freaking Contra. Let me pull it out, put it in the NES, fire it up on the CRT, and sit on my knees and play it. And my PS2 is also hooked up on a CRT. It's hooked up through RF. My PS2 is hooked up through RF. But I'm playing through Tony Hawk 3 right now on RF through a tube TV, and it is the best experience ever.
I got to defend this real quick. This tube TV is actually a really nice
It's
TV.
a really nice TV.
Is it the one that has the VCR?
No,
combo?
it's not a combo.
No,
Yeah,
it's not a combo.
Yeah.
But you do have a VCR.
I do have a VCR.
Yeah, okay, a combo hooked up to the.
I have a combo hooked up through it. Yeah.
Okay, but mind-boggling is this PS2 that's running through a Mad Catz RF, by the way.
Yeah.
Looks so, and we've got like the gold-tipped Sony component cables that we run the PS2 in here. Dude, on that 13-inch TV through RF, his PS2 is absolutely fire.
And
it looks so good.
It's incredible.
Yes.
It's so fun.
It's bizarre, but that TV you have doesn't even have AV.
It doesn't. The only thing it has is RF. So I was like, fuck, how do I didn't even know RF could do PS2 had RF.
Yeah.
So we discovered that, and that's awesome. So I can actually play my PS2 the way I want to be playing it. But it's like so weird because I have access in the other room where it's more comfortable to sit, where it's a bigger TV.
Mm-hmm.
I have access to tens of thousands of video games spanning from Atari to Game Boy to DS to NES, Super Nintendo, Genesis, freaking everything. I even have like some WiiWare games because the Wii's modded, and I still don't play those because it's emulation. Like, it's really convenient, first off, that I do have access to them.
Yeah.
It is really cool. It is really nice. And if that's how you game, that's super
Well,
good.
and
But if I don't have an interest to fire up the NES and just scroll through and be like, what am I going to play? No, if I'm going to play the NES, I'm going to play one of the 6 games I have at home. And if I don't have a game, guess what? It's here.
Yeah.
You know? So I'm like, oh, next time I come over to the studio, I'm going to borrow freaking John Elway's Quarterback. Just kidding. I'll never borrow that. But I'm going to borrow Super Sia or something like that and play it on the real NES, even though I have access to it on emulation.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing.
The only time I remember emulating at your house was like a party. Like a group of people, and we played one of your modded consoles. I think we did some Mario Kart type of stuff.
But
something like that.
But that's because it was like, oh, we're playing a party game. It's like NFL Blitz. It's like a pick up and play game. Where it was like, this will just be the easiest way to do this, where I don't have to think about it.
Yeah.
And then also it's better for everyone else because it's on a bigger TV. I don't want to be like, oh, you guys want to come and sit by the 13-inch?
Yeah. Hey, dude,
I do.
I'm not kidding. A 13-inch tube. Don't even crap on RF, guys. I'm not kidding. That thing looks fantastic.
Yeah, and I have a VHS DVD combo going through RF, going through that TV as well, and that's how I watch like my VHS tapes. That's how I watch some DVDs when I'm working in my office, and it's great. It's so good. Yeah. I mean, a DVD is not meant to be played through RF, but it's still fun. It's a
small enough screen. The pixels are so tight.
It looks incredible. So I don't know, emulation. It is super convenient, and I get why everyone's like, oh, it's so nice, because it is. But you don't actually enjoy the games. I feel like I think you can appreciate them, but I feel like there's so much more that goes into it to enjoy. And there will be someone in the comments that goes, well, actually, I emulate and I enjoy the hell out of my games. That's awesome.
Yeah,
it's great that you actually do. But I feel like for the most part, people don't. The people that emulate are always just tinkering. They're always just like trying to be like, oh, can I get game cases now with my emulation? Oh, can I make this look better on my TV? Oh, can I do this? Can I get a different controller for this?
Can I get Duck Hunt in 4K?
Can I use a zapper in my flat screen TV? And then so you're not actually playing video games at that point. You're doing tech.
It's called tinkering.
And if you like doing tech, that's great.
Yeah.
But you're not playing games.
Yeah, it's a interesting thing. I do think I will say, just to bury ourselves, I do think you and we click as friends so well because we have hella ADHD brains.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
And I think giving a couple pea brains like us, so many choices. It's like,
that's the problem I mentioned at the top of the episode, where it's like, when you have so many options and so many choices, you keep searching for what's better. And you don't know what that better is.
Yeah.
So you could go through, and this has happened to me many times when I'm trying to find something to watch at night. When I'm like scrolling on like Hulu, Netflix, HBO, Amazon, so many apps too. It's like, what app do you pick?
Yeah.
But then you gotta pick one, and then you scroll. It's just like, what do you want to pick? And then when you pick something, you go, oh, it doesn't click for me. And then you pick someone else. Dude, if you would have given that movie a chance, it might have been your favorite movie. It might have been, you might have loved it. But it's just...
Not that watching a movie is an accomplishment, but in many scenarios, by the end of that night, you accomplish nothing. You watched 10 minutes of 3 different movies, and you fell asleep.
And then you also judge. I feel like you judge things immediately when you're emulating so quickly, instead of just having the physical and playing the physical. You put in a game. Say, like, for example, say you emulate Contra Hardcore, and you're like, oh, I've heard amazing things about Contra, I've heard amazing things about Hardcore, I've never played it. You put it in, you play the first level, you're like, damn, this is actually pretty hard. You beat the first level, and you're like, okay, I get it. That's it. You've only played the first level, and then you move on, and you're like, and then when people talk about Hardcore, you're like, oh yeah, I played Hardcore, it's hard, and you're able to have the discussions and the talk about it, but you didn't actually play it.
Yeah.
You just got an idea for it.
Dude, you're getting my juices flowing.
I'm getting kind of peeved.
Yeah.
But it's just like,
it's kind of.
But it's like you didn't actually enjoy it. You didn't actually NDR it, which most people don't know Death Run. But
That's
did
fine,
you beat
but
it?
yeah.
Did you get? Most people, I get when you have a ton of video games, it's hard to beat things. Did you at least get halfway? Did you at least get past the first level? Because the first level could be, you could have an opinion on something just based on the first level. Same if you go to like streaming movies, or same, you put on a movie and if the first 10 minutes don't get you and you change it, what if the first 10 minutes of that movie suck?
Yeah.
Or what if the first 10 minutes
It's all about building a character.
Yeah. What if it's super slow because it's character development and you don't even give it a chance because you're like, I'm going on to something else that's like, I need this stimulation, because we're in this
microwave society.
We're in this terrible society. I mean, it is awesome because we have access to everything all up, but we're just like, we need different things all the time.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's how emulation is going, where it's like, okay, I can play my NES for 10 minutes, play my Super Nintendo for 10 minutes, play my Genesis for 10 minutes, play my N64 for 10 minutes.
And I'm a retro gamer.
But then it's like, dude, like, are you, like, I feel like you're just dipping your toes into retro gaming.
Well, it sucks to, like, because obviously we're really passionate about this.
Yeah.
And that's why I said trigger warning at the beginning. Because I do not like the gatekeeping aspect of this hobby. I do not like that. And the more people that can be in this hobby, to me, is the greater. I love when people can reconnect with these amazing games, and when times were just different, and the time that went into games. But I worry that there are going to be so many games that don't get fully experienced. Like when you start a game, we just the other day started. It's a remake of Silent Hill 2. That game takes quite a while to get its hooks into.
100%, because at first you're like, what the?
Yeah, what's going on?
What the F am I doing? You're wandering around trying to figure it out.
Before you get your sea legs in that game, it probably takes you an hour and a half.
Yeah.
To like really feel like, okay, now I know what's going on.
And if you're just emulating and you had never played Silent Hill 2, you'd be like, okay, I'm roaming around. It's kind of a spooky game. There's fog. I'm bored. I feel like emulation, you get bored quickly. You don't give things a chance. And it's just like, okay, I get it. Spooky game, fog, move on. Let me try Silent Hill 3. Yeah. And then you do the same thing. And it's like, okay, I played for 10 minutes. Silent Hill 4. And you're like, oh, wow, these are all similar. And it's like, well, because you didn't play them. Yeah. Like, they're all, like, it's so frustrating when people are like, emulation is the best. Emulation is the way to go. And it's like, I get that it's convenient. And we do it. And it is super nice. But if you're actually going to play video games, I feel like emulation, it kind of ruins it. You just get so like, you spaz out because you have so many games to play.
Again, if you have brains like us, it's a lot easier to do that. But I think watching our last episode is really important to this. And I'm not trying to just drum up more views.
He's plugging.
No, a little bit. But I'm also trying to really make sure that the point gets across that we do emulate a little bit. But the authenticity of the experience comes through whenever we talk about this, because we're so passionate about it. And not only do you have this choice paralysis going on, but then it's also, I gotta think, like, you may be playing a game that has a ton of lag. And here's a really good example. And I don't know how many people notice this type of stuff, but at my job during football season on Fridays with our sales team, we'll stick around and we'll just randomly have like NFL Blitz tournaments,
which is so fun. So fun.
On PS1 on a Raspberry Pi.
Yeah, you're playing through a Raspberry Pi. Yeah,
dude, I've played so much NFL Blitz in the arcade, on consoles, whatever. It is so hard to adjust to that. But then when I do, because of the input lag.
Yeah.
And yes, I know all the things that are going to come in the comment section. Put the TV on game mode. Order a mister. This is my work, okay?
Yeah.
I'm not going to do
it. And you're just doing it for fun.
Yeah. And I've got...
It should be a real quick, easy setup.
Yeah. And we do have the TV in game mode, by the way. Solve that problem.
Doesn't help.
And then what happens is, if I get used to it, if we're doing it like a few weeks in a row, and guys, we're not doing this on company time. Like, we literally stay late, like, after everyone else is gone. But it messes me up the next time I play the real thing.
Because you're like, I was used to this lag and used to this freaking thing, and then it doesn't work.
So, I mean, there's also that pitfall, which could be a whole nother video.
That's a whole nother thing, because then you start getting into tinkering, which I've already mentioned, where it's like, yeah, we're just trying to make the picture quality look the best. We're trying to erase all input lag, because there will always be some input lag. So it's like, well, connect this. Then you're spending so much time behind your TV or plugging things in or spending, what's so wild is, oh yeah, I sold my collection. This is like a counter. Oh, I sold my collection and now I just emulate. But then I bought this and this and oh, you spent $4,000 to play an NES game on your flat screen TV instead of you could have a wall of NES games for less than that? Like that's insane to me, where it's like people are passionate for different things. I'm passionate for this. It doesn't make sense to me. It's so weird.
Trigger warning achieved.
Yes.
I do think that both these things can coexist. They coexist in our life.
Oh yeah, we both use both.
But it's all about that preferred method, and I do think there is a thing through emulating, and you may not even realize it's going on, and it's all the things we talked about in this video, and it's all boils down to choice paralysis. And I think this could even be a larger discussion in all forms of media.
100%.
Because when you neck it down to video games, I do think it's a real thing. And I want to end this.
Okay.
But I really, really want to ask those of you that are super passionate about this and have even been on the side of collecting and you're still into gaming, how many retro games through the NES app, SNES app, Genesis app, Game Boy Advance app, whatever else there is on the Switch, I think I got them all, N64 app, have you beaten? I'm not asking for 100% completion, no death runs. How many games have you beaten on the Nintendo Switch retro apps? And I bet
I feel like the number's small.
There's someone out there that it could be all of them. Because there are people who can control their shit.
There are people that, that's how they game, and that's awesome. You're playing through and you're using emulation to the best way you can.
Yeah. But I bet you the number's really, really, really low. And I bet if you're really honest with yourself, you know that that's true.
Yeah, if you are a diehard emulation fan, and maybe you used to be a physical media fan, and you sold all your stuff to emulate,
have you beat more games since?
Have you beat more games since? Are you still... this might be a general, broad thing to say, and you might piss some people off, but there are people that used to have this, and then they sold it to get into emulation, so they have access to hundreds of thousands of games, and that's awesome. But then I feel like when you do that, you have slowly gotten yourself out of retro gaming. Do you still game as much as you did when you had a collection? Do you still game as much as you did when you were a kid, when you had physical media, if you're emulating? Do you still enjoy the games? Or are you just dabbling? Or are you just like, oh, I'm a retro gamer, but you don't really play?
I'm a retro...
Be honest. Be honest.
Be honest.
And maybe you don't have to be honest with us, but be honest with yourself.
And the little truth serum never hurts. Drink a little bit, have a little truth serum float through the veins. Are you a retro gamer or are you a retro tinkerer?
Ooh.
Let's seal it up. Let's talk about it in the comments. We appreciate you tuning in and subscribing to the channel. We'll see you next time on the one and only Gaming Off the Grid.